Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're attempting to unlock what might be one of the most guarded secrets in American history.
Absolutely. It's an incident that on the books was just dismissed as a large-scale clash in the war on liquor.
Right, a bootlegging raid. But the documents we have in front of us, they paint a picture of something far, far more monstrous.
And this is a personal testimony, a really harrowing document written by someone who chose to shatter a federal ban on silence.
A ban specifically concerning the events in the Massachusetts seaport of Innsmouth.
During the winter of 1927 and 1928.
So the public record? What does it actually say?
It contains the bare minimum. You'll find mentions of a massive series of raids, hundreds of arrests, and then the calculated dynamiting and burning of huge sections of the waterfront.
Which on its own sounds extreme for a liquor bust.
It is. And if you were paying close attention back in 1928, you would have realized right away that the story just didn't hold water.
How so?
Well, for one, liquor busts don't require the deployment of an abnormally large force of federal agents.
Right.
And they certainly don't get backed up by what appears to have been military or naval personnel.
That level of force, that suggests a state-level emergency.
Mm.
But what happened next is the real tell, isn't it? The sign that something truly catastrophic was being covered up.
It is. The arrests.
Yeah.
The sheer number of them was prodigious. We're talking hundreds of citizens just hauled away.
And then just silence.
Complete silence. The disposal of those prisoners became this immediate, chilling enigma.
No definite charges were ever filed.
None. No public trials.
Yeah.
The captives just disappeared from the regular correctional facilities. They vanished.
So the government didn't just suppress the news. This was something else entirely.
This was total, widespread obfuscation. They resorted to these bizarre, vague statements. You hear mentions of disease, of concentration camps, and then this eventual dispersal into highly secure military and naval prisons.
It speaks to a level of sensitivity, that is. I mean, it's so profound, so utterly threatening to public order that the usual legal structures were just completely bypassed.
And that's the critical insight here.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when the government does something like this, a massive bypass of due process, organizations dedicated to civil liberties, they rise up in protest.
But they didn't.
They were silenced. And that, for me, is the most terrifying part of the whole initial government action.
What do you mean they were silenced? How?
Well, officials took the leaders of these liberal and civil rights organizations on what the document calls long confidential discussions.
And trips.
And trips to these camps and prisons. And whatever they were shown, whatever terrifying reality was unveiled to them, it resulted in those societies becoming instantly, shockingly passive, reticent.
So the horror of it was so fundamentally challenging to our reality that these groups chose societal panic control over defending the rights of what they must have realized were not entirely human captives.
Exactly. Terror proved to be a more effective silencing mechanism than any kind of coercion ever could be.
And the genesis of this entire secret operation, this historical black hole, was the action of one person, our narrator.
He was the catalyst. He's the one who fled Innsmouth frantically in the early morning hours of July 16, 1927.
And it was his frightened appeals, as he calls them, that forced the federal government to act, however secretly they did it.
Yeah. And his motivation for breaking the silence years later it's crucial to understanding this document. He's not writing for justice or for posterity. He's writing for his own sanity.
He needs to confirm he wasn't the only victim of a, quote, contagious nightmare.
And there's something else, something more disturbing. He mentions he's using this testimony to resolve his mind regarding a certain terrible step which lies ahead of him.
So this account is his final attempt to rationalize some kind of impending monstrous decision.
A decision that he knows will define his future. And it's a decision that's predicated entirely on the shocking, unspeakable truth he witnessed.
Okay, let's unpack that journey. We have to start with how he even ended up there. The accidental discovery in what we're calling Section 1, Whispers of the Shadowed Seaport.
Right. He was just a tourist. That's the thing to remember.
Just doing an antiquarian and genealogical tour of New England. He was planning to travel from Newburyport to Arkham.
It was pure financial necessity that diverted him. The steam train was too expensive.
So he asks the ticket agent for the cheapest way to get to Arkham.
He does. And the agent, you can tell he's hesitant, suggests this old motor coach. It's operated by an Innsmouth local named Joe Sargent.
And the agent's immediate discomfort is the first clue. He says, the bus ain't thought much of hereabouts.
And that it gets almost no custom from the locals.
Yeah.
This reveals the town's primary characteristic right away.
Its ability to inspire this intense, century-long local dislike and fear. It's something that goes way beyond just, civic decay.
Exactly. Historically, Innsmouth was a thriving port before the War of 1812. But by the time our narrator gets there, it had, in his words, gone to pieces.
There's no railway anymore.
No. Trade is confined mostly to fishing and lobstering. You've got this massive number of empty, decaying houses. The whole economy is hanging by a thread.
And that thread is one single business.
The Marsh Refining Company, which deals in gold.
And that refinery and the family behind it is absolutely central to this whole mystery.
Oh, completely. The current owner, a man they call Old Nan Marsh, is described as being richer in Crucis.
But he's totally secluded. There are rumors of a skin disease or deformity.
And he's the grandson of the town's. Well, the town's true progenitor of darkness, Captain Obed Marsh.
The historical stain really begins with Obed.
It does. There were rumors that his mother was a South Sea Islander, which was a huge scandal back then. And it only got worse when he married a local Ipswich girl.
And you see the result of that mixing in the local population's desperate efforts to conceal any Innsmouth blood.
Right. And here's a key, unsettling detail that emerges really early on. The younger generations of the Marsh family, they look mostly normal. But the elder children,
They aren't around lately.
they're not around. It's this early indication that people in this town are disappearing, not just, dying of old age.
And the local legends provide this gruesome context for it all.
Yeah, for a century, neighbors have been whispering about Captain Obed Marsh driving bargains with the devil.
Bringing imps out of hell to live in Innsmouth.
They're holding these awful devil worship ceremonies and sacrifices down by the wharves back in the 1840s.
And all these dark rumors seem to converge on one physical place.
Devil Reef. It's this formidable black line of rock about 1.5 miles out at sea, mostly above water.
And every sailor in the region would detour to avoid it.
Except for the ones from Innsmouth, especially Obed Marsh. The legends claim a whole legion of devils was seen sprawling on it, or darting in and out of caves there.
And the locals suspected Obed was landing there at night.
Consorting with something unnatural.
These occult activities seem to have culminated in the big epidemic of 1846.
Right. This epidemic carries off over half the population.
Yeah.
It's never identified by any authorities.
It leads to riots and ghastly doings. It just leaves the town in, quote, awful shape.
And this moment, 1846, it marks the definite beginning of Innsmouth's real decay and its isolation from the rest of the world.
But the core reason for the revulsion, the reason that ticket agent was so uncomfortable, it's the infamous Innsmouth look.
Yes, initially it's framed as simple race prejudice,
Yeah.
but the physical descriptions, they're anything but simple.
The features are described as profoundly alien.
They are. Queer narrow heads, flat noses, and of course the notorious bulgy starry eyes that never seem to shut.
Let's really dig into this look, because it doesn't just suggest degeneration, it suggests a specific act of transformation.
I agree. You see descriptions of rough, scabby skin, of shriveled or creased necks, premature baldness.
And the pattern is critical. The older individuals look the worst,
But you very rarely see any actual old people of that kind. It's a population where the visibly tainted just seem to vanish before they reach old age.
when unnatural quality is so strong that animals react to it.
Horses in particular, they exhibit this instinctive, violent hatred toward them.
The town's response to all this is just to close ranks, total isolation.
They're offish, as the agent says. They drive away outside fishermen. They conduct all their trade through neighboring towns.
All to ensure that no outsiders stay within their borders long enough to really observe what's happening.
Right. Even the local hotel, the Gilman House, is a source of suspicion.
Right.
We get that story about the factory inspector, Casey.
From 2 years prior, he heard these unnatural foreign voices in the hotel at night.
A repulsive, slopping-like sound, he called it, in a mostly empty hotel.
He was so terrified he waited up all night and then just fled undressed at dawn.
And he noted that the Innsmouth people seemed suddenly on guard. They knew he'd heard something. They were aware of his suspicion.
And finally, you have the mystery of the Marsh refinery.
Yes. They never seemed to buy any raw gold. Yet years ago, they shipped out enormous quantities of refined ingots.
And the jewelry seen on the Marsh women was clearly foreign, unusual. It prompted all these theories about pirate loot.
But the truly baffling detail, the one that makes no sense, is that long after Obed's trade ships vanished, the Marshes continued to buy these cheap native trade things.
Glass beads, rubber gewgaws.
Exactly. which strongly implies that this strange illicit exchange cheap trinkets for valuable gold-like materials was still going on.
Through some entirely non-traditional, non-maritime means.
Which brings us to Section 2, the tiara and the cult.
The narrator's historical research, it confirms the town's general history, but his focus quickly narrows down.
To the strange jewelry, specifically a tiara being held at the Newburyport Historical Society.
And his first encounter with this artifact it's a very sensory experience.
It is. The curator, Ms. Anna Tilton, allows him to view it, and the narrator immediately gasps. He's just overwhelmed by its strange, unearthly splendor.
And he realizes right away this is not just old pirate loot.
No. Let's look at the object itself. It's described as being tall in the front and freakishly elliptical.
It was not designed for a human head.
No way. It's made of gold, but it's alloyed with something that gives it a weird, lighter lustrousness.
An unidentifiable metal.
Completely unidentifiable. And the craftsmanship is just. It's described as being of incredible skill and grace, possessing infinite maturity and perfection.
An assessment like that, it almost completely eliminates a terrestrial origin.
It does. Perfection of technique is something that's achieved by established schools of art over thousands of years. This object, however, is utterly remote from any known art, ancient or modern.
He says it suggests the workmanship might be that of another planet.
That's a massive leap from a simple liquor raid cover-up.
Yeah.
We're now dealing with something on a cosmic scale.
And the design itself confirms that alien source.
Yes, the motifs are, as he says, monotonously aquatic. They hint at remote secrets and unimaginable abysses in time and space.
The reliefs feature these fabulous monsters of abhorrent grotesqueness and malignity,
which he describes as a terrifying hybrid, half fish and half frog. This is the first literal depiction of those imps out of hell from the old legends.
What's so fascinating here is the psychological impact the tiara has on him.
Right. It evokes a curiously disturbing element, a sense of what he calls pseudo-memory.
It's as if the sight of these fish-frog monsters pulls up some visceral, horrifying recollection from his awesomely ancestral cells. Like the image is coded deep inside his own lineage.
And these creatures, to him, they embody the ultimate quintessence of unknown and inhuman evil.
So where did it come from?
It was pawned in 1873 by a drunken Innsmouth man. But the Marshes, they immediately and persistently tried to buy it back.
For exorbitant prices.
Which supports the idea that this wasn't just old jewelry to them. It was sacred, a religious artifact.
And Miss Tilton provides that final piece of historical context that really solidifies the narrator's mission.
The esoteric order of Dagon.
She explains that this cult arose precisely when the town's fisheries seemed to be failing.
And its establishment coincided with the sudden and permanent return of abundantly fine fishing.
It replaced Freemasonry. It even took over the old Masonic Hall.
For the narrator, this changes everything. His objective shifts from just, mere curiosity to what he calls acute anthropological zeal.
He now has a dark, specific theory about the cost of all that pseudo-prosperity.
And that takes us into Section 3, his arrival and the early dread that sets in. The next morning, he tries to walk around town, and he is immediately subjected to the local revulsion. People just scatter from him.
And then the bus arrives. Decrepit, dirty, driven by Joe Sargent.
The narrator's first meeting with Sargent is highly unsettling. It confirms every prejudice the ticket agent had. Sargent is tall, stoop-shouldered. He looks much older than his 35 years because of these deep creases in his neck.
And we get the terrifying specifics of the Innsmouth look on a functioning adult.
Let's extract the most horrifying biologically altered characteristics here, because this is definitely not just an ethnic look.
It's the eyes.
It's always the eyes. Bulging, watery blue eyes that seem never to wink.
A flat nose, receding chin and forehead, and these singularly undeveloped ears.
His skin is coarse-pored and grayish. It looks like it's peeling or afflicted somehow. And he has this sparse, straggling yellow hair.
And the anatomical changes they extend to his limbs, they almost suggest some kind of amphibian adaptation.
They do. His hands are large, heavily veined, with a grayish-blue tinge, and his fingers are strikingly short, and they tend to curl inward.
But most telling are his feet,
which are described as inordinately immense.
The narrator, he's trying to rationalize this. He initially attributes it all to biological degeneration rather than alienage.
Right, and the isolation of the route just enhances this growing dread. The road is desolate, with these crude wooden bridges over tidal creeks.
And there's a local tradition that this area became barren at the same time as the 1846 epidemic.
Linked by the simple folk to hidden forces of evil.
As the road starts to climb, the narrator's disquiet just mounts and mounts. He feels this irrational fear that the bus might literally merge with the unknown arcana of upper air.
His growing hatred for Sargent's bent, scabrous head is almost physical at this point. He is completely alone with a creature that seems fundamentally wrong.
And then he gets his first sight of Innsmouth from the crest of the hill, a panorama of just utter decay.
It's wide, but it's silent. It lacks any visible life. You have this vast huddle of sagging gambrel roofs that just convey wormy decay.
The abandoned railway, the rotting wharves, and far out at sea, that black line of Devil Reef is visible again.
And he notes that the reef carries the sense of odd, latent malignancy, and strangely, a subtle, curious sense of beckoning.
The few listless people he sees, including children with what he calls simian-visaged faces, are even more disquieting than the buildings.
And here that pseudo-recollection hits him hard again. He feels a fleeting suggestion of a picture I had seen perhaps in a book under circumstances of particular horror.
And the smell, the pervasive, sickening odor of fish, just adds to the sensory overload. It's drowning him in this atmosphere of corruption.
But the true catalyst of horror happens near New Church Green. He's distracted by a cracked bell tolling the hour.
And he sees a figure across the church basement doorway. The pastor.
This man is clad in peculiar vestments, and impossibly is wearing an almost exact duplicate of the tiara from the museum.
That one moment, that brief, shocking vision of the priest in the tiara, it confirms the alien reality.
It burns a nightmare hallucination into his mind, causing a shuddering touch of evil pseudo-memory.
The tiara is an ancient history. It's an active piece of regalia for a present functioning cult.
And the Marsh family isn't just rich. They're the high priests of something absolutely abominable.
They finally arrive at the town square, which, despite all the decay around it, houses the Gilman House and the Marsh Refining Office.
And the young people he sees here, though there are a few of them, are all repellent-looking. It just confirms the widespread nature of this physical transformation.
So moving into Section 4, the learner's insights. The narrator recognizes the danger now. He needs information, but he needs it from a non-native.
Right, so he finds a 17-year-old kid from Arkham working at the Feast National Grocery.
And this boy is clearly desperate to talk. He hates the town, he hates the smell, he hates the furtive people.
Which makes him a reliable, if terrified, informant.
And the boy establishes the geography of danger for him immediately.
Yes, the fine residential areas are to the west, but the eastern slums along Main Street, they're dangerous. Strangers have disappeared there.
He warns the narrator not to linger near the Marsh Refinery, the used churches, or the Order of Dagon Hall.
And we get more detail on the religious terror. The churches are, quote, violently disavowed by their official denominations. They conduct these queer ceremonials.
Their creeds hint at marvelous transformations leading to bodily immortality of a sort on this earth.
And chanting is heard at night, especially on the cult's major festival days, May 30th and October 31st.
The town is just completely closed off, banded together. They despise the outside world as if they have access to other and preferable spheres of entity.
The boy confirms the true horror of the Innsmouth look. It's an insidious disease that increases its hold with age.
And the anatomical changes, particularly to the skull structure, are radical and unheard of.
Which explains the missing population. Only the young, the less tainted people are ever seen in public.
So the inference is terrifying. The worst specimens, they're kept locked indoors.
And those tottering waterfront hovels north of the river are reputedly connected by hidden tunnels. A veritable warren of unseen abnormalities where these creatures, presumably mid-transformation, reside.
And the boy points him to the only native who ever talks.
Zadok Allen, 96 years old, the town drunkard, lived at the poorhouse.
When he's drunk, he gives these astonishing fragments of whispered reminiscence,
Which the other natives actively try to suppress. Even if Zadok's stories are insane, the townsfolk know they are close enough to the truth to be dangerous.
And finally, the Marshes. Old Man Marsh is never seen. His sons and daughters are reclusive, harboring these concealed, transforming kinsfolk whose deaths have been falsely reported.
And we see the physical manifestation of their wealth and their commitment to this cult. One repellent, reptilian-looking woman, a Marsh daughter, who wears excessive jewelry in that same exotic alien tradition as the tiara.
So despite all these dire warnings, the narrator, he's driven by this anthropological zeal and this creeping sense of ancestral horror. He's determined to speak to Zadok Allen.
He manages to buy some bootleg whiskey, which is a testament to the town's general lawlessness, and he spots the old drunkard shuffling near Waite Street.
And this moves us into Section 5, the terrible testimony of Zadok Allen. The narrator successfully lures Zadok to a deserted waterfront wharf, shielded from view by a ruined warehouse.
The atmosphere is just dense with desolation and that sickening fish odor, and after about 2 hours of rambling, the bottle is drained, and Zadok latches onto Devil Reef, which is plainly visible.
He grabs the narrator's lapel and just begins to hiss this terrifying truth.
Zadok claims that Obed Marsh first encountered this horror in the South Seas. He found these islanders, they were suffering, and he learned they were sacrificing their youth to god things that lived under the sea.
And in return, they got abundant fish and these gold-like objects.
These god things were the deep ones. Zadok describes them from island carvings as fish-like frogs or frog-like fishes that was drawn in all kinds of positions like they was human beings.
And they lived in massive underwater cities.
The deal was struck. Sacrifices twice a year, May Eve and Halloween. And in return, the deep ones would drive fish to the coast and supply the mysterious jewelry.
But here is the truly unique horror of the pact.
Yes, the deep ones were amphibians, and they wanted to mix with the islanders. The promise was that the resulting mixed-blood children would look human at first,
but would change over time, take to the water, and never die.
Zadok explains that the older ones who started to show the change, they were hidden away until they could take to the water, achieving this monstrous amphibious form of immortality.
And Obed Marsh just capitalized on this completely, trading heavily for the gold-like materials, starting the refinery to melt down the evidence.
Right. But the island operation ended abruptly around 1838 when other natives, possibly rivals, wiped them out. And they used old magic sign swastikas, which the deep ones apparently feared.
So Obed lost his source.
Which brings us to Section 6, where Zadok details the corruption of Innsmouth itself. The town fell into hardship again, and Obed, railing against Christianity, convinced a desperate core of men that they could renew the bargain locally.
For wealth and fish.
But this was met with resistance. Preachers, prominent citizens like a host Matt Elliott, they were against it.
But the resistance was deadly.
The Christian parsons either left or, in the Baptist parsons' case, just vanished. Zadok links this to the blasphemous names of the new cult, Dagon and Ashtoreth Belial and Beelzebub.
Obed and his followers started chanting out at Devil Reef, dropping heavy things into the deep water.
And the missing men in the town, Hiram Gilman, Nick Pierce, they provided the heavy things.
As the fish returned and prosperity swelled, the esoteric order of Dagon was formally founded. It took over the Masonic Hall with these new sailor parsons wearing queer robes and Obed's gold ornaments.
The ultimate crisis came in 1846 with the insurrection. Zadok, who was just a child then, he witnessed it. A party followed Obed to the reef, shots were exchanged, and Obed and 32 others were jailed.
And the deep ones saw this as a broken contract.
Exactly. 2 weeks later, when no sacrifices had been thrown to the sea, they rose.
The scale of the attack is terrifying. Zadok whispers of hordes of them, swarms of them, swimming up the harbor.
They attacked the town. Over half the population was lost, though the incident was successfully covered up and labeled as a foreign plague.
And Obed Marsh was released from jail and immediately took charge.
He announced the new covenant. The others would now worship with them, and certain houses had to entertain guests.
The forced mixing?
Right. Everyone had to take the oath of Dagon, and later, second and third oaths. Refusal meant death, because the deep ones were millions and could wipe out all of humankind if they were forced to rise.
And the reward, their children would never die. They'd go back to Mother Hydra and Father Dagon.
This confirms it. Dagon is the primary god of the cult, and Mother Hydra is the female counterpart, the source of this mixed blood lineage.
Zadok, one of the rare resistors, refused the third oath.
And the horror only deepened around the Civil War, when the first generation of mixed children began to mature. Obed took a second, unseen deep one wife, whose daughter was then married off by trick to an unsuspecting man from Arkham.
And that is the seat of our narrator's personal terror.
Zadok brings the Marsh line up to the present day. Barnabas Marsh, Obed's grandson, whose own mother was one of these unseen deep ones, is about changed.
He can't shut his eyes. He's out of shape. He'll soon take to the water, having been kept hidden for 10 years.
And now, in Section 7, the final panic. Zadok's monologue just reaches its zenith. The sound of the incoming tide shifts his fear into hysterical paranoia.
He screams about the town rotting, filled with boarded-up monsters crawling and bleating and barking and hopping.
But the ultimate revelation is what the cult is doing now. They're bringing things up from below into the town.
The boarding up houses north of the river are filled with them devils and what they brung.
This leads to the forbidden name. Zadok challenges the narrator, shrieking, "Ever hear tell of a Shoggoth?"
And for anyone listening who doesn't know, in the cosmic lexicon of this kind of horror, a Shoggoth is not just a monster. It's a nightmare creation, a protoplasmic amorphous entity summoned from the deepest abyss.
Used by these ancient things as a powerful, terrifying servant, its presence suggests the Deep Ones are preparing for something far greater than just local secrecy.
The terror just climaxes. Zadok's eyes bulge, focused past the narrator toward the sea. He lets out this truly inhuman, animalistic shriek.
Yeah, he screams. "They seen us," tells the narrator to flee for his life, and then just dashes wildly away, vanishing into the decaying structures.
The narrator, now finally realizing Zadok's insane story is literal truth, he tries to maintain his composure. But it's late, 7:15 p.m., and he's forced back toward the town square and the supposed bus to Arkham.
Which leads him immediately into Section 8, the trap.
The bus is there, but Sargent, the driver, reappears with the news that the engine is irreparable. There is no other way out.
He's trapped. He has to stay at the Gilman house. He pays the sullen, queer-looking night clerk for room 428 on the 4th floor.
Realizing too late that every single one of those unwinking, bulging eyes in the square was fixed on the hotel.
And his paranoia is instantly justified. The room is dismal, and he finds 2 highly coordinated acts of sabotage. The light switch is dead.
A systemic power cut. And critically, the bolt on his door has been removed, leaving him defenseless.
He frantically improvises, transferring a bolt from the closed breast to the hall door.
After darkness falls, the attack begins. He hears these furtive footsteps creaking corridors. Then the undeniable sound of a key being softly, cautiously tried in the lock of his hall door.
This confirms 2 things. They knew he was coming, and this is a highly organized professional capture attempt, not some random mob attack.
The Prowler uses passkeys to enter the rooms to the north and south of his, trying the bolted connecting doors in a methodical pattern. They're quartering him.
The soft probing turns to violent battering. Knowing the bolt on the hall door won't hold, the narrator uses his own body as a ram against the north connecting door.
It splinters. He rushes through, bolting the next hall door shut just in time.
And the auditory details of the pursuit are almost more horrifying than the thought of the creatures themselves.
As he's barricading the doors, he hears hideous pantings, gruntings, and subdued barkings, but he emphasizes not one unmuffled or intelligible vocal sound.
These creatures are communicating, but it's a bestial, guttural language. It confirms they are no longer truly human.
He finds no fire escape. He has to improvise again. He rips down these heavy velour draperies and the brass rod, hooks the rings to the exterior shutter catch, and descends to the roof of the next building.
And makes his final, desperate escape from the Gilman house at 2 in the morning.
This brings us to Section 9, the chase and the final revelation. He drops into a deserted building, finds his way into a courtyard, and aims for the Arkham Road.
But the courtyard is immediately flooded with horror.
A large crowd of doubtful shapes pours out of the Gilman house, carrying these bobbing lanterns. He hears horrible, croaking voices speaking a language that is certainly not English.
Their movement is this distinctive, crouching, shambling gait.
And his terror is complete when he spots one figure, robed, wearing that familiar tall tiara. It gives the whole hunt this ritualistic sacerdotal quality.
And the fishy stench is just overwhelming. As he flees south, he sees visual confirmation of this massive, coordinated operation.
Intermittent flashes of light, a strange, steady glow erupt from Devil Reef.
And they're immediately answered by analogous signals from the Gilman House cupola. They're coordinating the hunt between the land and the sea.
Then the climactic vision that shatters his sanity. He looks at the water between the reef and the shore. It is alive.
A teeming horde of shapes swimming inward toward the town. Their movement is alien and aberrant.
He realizes all the southward escape routes are blocked by this organized pursuit down Federal Street. He has to change course, aiming for the abandoned, briar-choked railway line to Rowley. It's his single, desperate chance.
As he's hiding in the railway cut, the sensory assault reaches its peak. The sheer number of pursuers suggests unplumbed Warren's team with a twisted, uncatalogued and unsuspected life.
He hears this wholesale, colossal flopping and pattering sound, and the stench is overpowering.
The noise just swells into a bestial babble of croaking, baying, and barking without the least suggestion of human speech.
He tries to keep his eyes shut, hoping the horde will pass, but the combination of terror and this irresistible curiosity forces them open.
And this is the moment of ultimate horrific reality. He sees them surging down the Rowley Road in a limitless stream, flopping, hopping, croaking, bleeding, surging inhumanly.
Let's focus on the synthesis of their appearance here, because they are so fundamentally disturbing. They represent cosmic horror trying to wear a human disguise.
The predominant color is a grayish green with white bellies. They're shiny and slippery with scaly ridges down their backs. They're vaguely anthropoid, but with fish heads and these prodigious bulging eyes that never closed.
They have pulsating gills at the neck and long webbed paws, and they hop irregularly on 2 or 4 legs.
And the crowning, terrifying absurdity that confirms their intention to mimic and replace humanity.
The leader, the one in front of this inhuman flood,
is clad in a ghoulishly humped black coat and striped trousers with a man's felt hat perched on the shapeless thing that answered for a head.
It's this blasphemous hybrid of tailoring and fish frog anatomy. The sight of this living reality, the horrifying twin of the tiara design, causes the narrator's mind to just fail. He faints.
Which moves us into section 10, the unfolding horror, the aftermath. He wakes in daylight, in the rain. He eventually reaches Rowley, buys new clothes, and takes the train to Arkham.
And it's his subsequent testimony to government officials that leads directly to those secret raids, the dynamiting of the waterfront, and the deployment of submarines to fire torpedoes into the seabed near the reef.
While he's recovering in Arkham, he begins his genealogical research. He's seeking stability, but instead, he finds his own terrifying truth.
He meets a curator, Mr. Peabody, who notes that his grandmother was an Eliza Orne of Arkham. And Peabody reveals that Eliza's mother was an orphaned Marsh of New Hampshire with a baffling ancestry.
But was specifically noted for having the true Marsh eyes.
Then comes the chilling, world-shattering pronouncement. Peabody tells the narrator that he also possesses the true Marsh eyes.
The staring, unwinking expression that is the genetic signature of the transformation.
This sparks the terrifying realization of a family curse. His grandmother vanished, said to have wandered off after the suicide of her eldest son, his Uncle Douglas,
who shot himself after a trip to New England that focused on his own family history.
And both his grandmother and his uncle had that same staring, unwinking expression. His cousin Lawrence, Uncle Walter's son, was a duplicate before he was put into permanent seclusion in a sanitarium in Canton.
This family history reveals the true nature of the Deep One lineage. It's not just a genetic trait, it's a slowly activated transformation.
And for those who resist the change, who fight the growing influence of the Deeps, the outcome is fatal. Suicide, like Uncle Douglas, or madness and seclusion, like Cousin Lawrence.
The ultimate proof is found when the narrator views his great-grandmother's jewelry in a Cleveland safe deposit vault. The repulsive designs include armlets, a pectoral, and a tiara.
An exact duplicate of the cult regalia he saw in Innsmouth.
Upon seeing this ancestral piece, the psychological trauma forces him to faint again. The full, literal truth of Zadok Allen's insane story just snaps into place.
Obed Marsh married his Deep One daughter to an Arkham man by trick. The Marsh eyes are the legacy of that union. Obed Marsh is his great-great-grandfather.
He is of Deep One stock, and the transformation for him is now imminent.
The psychological toll manifests fully in 1930 and 31 when the dreams begin. They are increasingly vivid, tormenting him with images of watery spaces, titanic sunken porticos, and cyclopean walls.
He sees grotesque fishes, and finally, the other shapes.
And the dreams are paradoxical. When he wakes, they fill him with horror. But during the dreams, he is one with them. He's wearing their trappings and praying at sea-bottom temples.
His health begins to decline. He develops an affliction that leaves him nearly unable to shut his eyes, mirroring the Marsh look he's come to dread. He begins to see the resemblance to his ill-fated grandmother and uncle in the mirror.
The final decisive dream provides the ultimate details of his destiny and the cosmic scale of the threat. He meets his grandmother under the sea in a phosphorescent palace.
She confirms she never died. She's successfully changed, and she's welcoming him to his destined realm.
She introduces him to his great-great-grandmother, a being named Thili, who has lived in the underwater city of Yanthli for 80,000 years.
That detail is crucial, It grounds the Deep Ones not just in local legend, but in deep time. It suggests a terrifying antiquity and patience that humanity cannot possibly comprehend.
Thithially reveals the aftermath of the government action. Yhontle was hurt, but not destroyed by the attack.
The Upper Earth men shot death into the sea, but the Deep Ones could never be destroyed. And they would rise again when Great Cthulhu craved tribute.
This introduces the absolute hierarchy. Great Cthulhu is the ultimate, slumbering cosmic terror this entire civilization serves. Dagon and Mother Hydra are just the foot soldiers preparing the world for Cthulhu's eventual awakening.
And his great-great-grandmother issues a warning. The next city to fall would be greater than Innsmouth.
In this dream, he finally sees a Shoggoth, that amorphous, terrifying servant, and it wakes him in a frenzy. That very morning, the mirror confirms the horror. He has definitively acquired the Innsmouth look.
The transformation is complete.
But here is the profound shift in the narrator's psychological state.
The initial horror begins to subside. It's replaced by a strange, compelling draw toward the unknown deeps. He rejects the path of resistance that his family members chose.
He resolves not to kill himself. He chooses acceptance.
Instead, he plans his cousin Lawrence's escape from the Canton madhouse. He wants to save him from the custody of the human world.
They will go to Innsmouth, swim out to Devil Reef, and dive down to Cyclopean and many-columned Yhontle to dwell forever amidst wonder and glory.
The monstrous immortality has become for him a salvation.
Our deep dive concludes with the profound implications of the narrator's ultimate choice. He has fully accepted this horrific transformation and his ancestral destiny.
He is now a willing operative, preparing to join the ancient forces below the Shadowed Sea.
The survival of Yhontle, despite that massive government effort, the dynamiting, the arrests, the submarine torpedoes, it means the Deep Ones remain a latent, ancient power.
And the narrator's final plan guarantees a new, fully willing generation is prepared to join them.
The narrator's chilling final incantation, Cthulhu Fatun, Tiki, is the closing of the loop.
It's a cry of devotion, not terror. It's celebrating the city where Cthulhu sleeps, preparing for that cosmic upheaval. The horror has merely retreated beneath the waves, waiting for its kin to join the coming war.
This leaves us with a terrifying question for you to consider. If the Deep Ones survived the government's heaviest artillery, and the narrator's lineage connects him directly to Arkham through marriage, and the Deep Ones promise the next attack would target a city greater than Innsmouth, what does this final resolution mean for the immediate future of Arkham, and indeed for the rest of humanity? The war on liquor was just a cover for the rising tide of the abyssal deep.